Hi everyone. Welcome to our
Hey
first
everyone.
time of welcome to this first time of lunchtime session. I don't know how it's going to happen, but this is the first time I just came out of lunch. I sacrificed my lunch to do this live stream, so I hope it goes really well. And we have Eddie here. He's the open source god, and there is Aditya Oberai, and he's an hackathon enthusiast, and he has been like judging hackathons. He has been organizing hackathons, been a hacker himself, and then he's won a lot of awards. And with respect to Eddie, should we say anything? He has bought GitHub.
We're all wearing really cool
I won't be
t-shirts.
surprised if Eddie is the next CEO of GitHub. So yes, so I don't need to say anything more about Eddie or like go on Eddie,
No,
because
I was just going
almost
to say we're
every
all wearing
single
awesome t-shirts. Praveen has a Code Mortals t-shirt. I have. What does everyone come and show your t-shirts, everyone? What are you all wearing? Lift it up. Don't be shy.
Okay.
Yes, look at that. Open source for the win, and Hacktoberfest is coming up, but I'll talk about that later.
no, that's the main topic, Eddie.
I want to let someone else to speak first.
All right. So
Ah,
I'll ask you to you guys started I'm not that good with Hacktoberfest other than trying to get these four pull requests approved and then getting my T-shirt. Boom. So a lot of people are asking what is this Hacktoberfest and why are everyone like so excited about it? Come on, you guys continue. So
What
even
I
I want to know
love
why.
about Hacktoberfest is not just the free swag, but it's kind of hackathon and open source like together. What do you think? I mean, it's just
yeah, absolutely. I
perfect.
think it really celebrates the entire community and everything that all of us are doing, and that's really cool because it's not for a small group. It's not for just a few members in the community. It's for everyone all across the world, and
And
that's
to
that's
add to
really
that,
insane if you think about it.
yeah, I think that's perfect. I just want to add something to that. Sorry to interrupt. You're right. It is for everybody
Absolutely.
because it's not just about code. It is about making any improvement, and by improvement, like adding value to a project. And I think that's really important. We have our documentation in the repo now. We have so many things, automated tests, and you're right. It is for everybody to get involved. To everyone watching, get
Absolutely.
involved.
Yep. Also, I think for a lot of members, at least I'm sure there's going to be quite a few who've been interested in getting into open source, who've been interested in trying their hand out and have just not found the right, maybe, the right guidance, the right path, the right opportunities. And Hacktoberfest is the best opportunity to get started, even if you have absolutely zero experience beforehand. And for
Absolutely.
this, I mean, we've got resources dedicatedly provided by the Hacktoberfest team as well, which is so cool. And I was actually, in fact, I was going through some of these resources today, and it's interesting how they've got a tutorial series on introduction, recommended curated repositories from where beginners can get started. So it's really cool how the organizations themselves are really pushing forward for this.
I agree. All these companies are getting on board. I think there are so many um, motivations and encouragements to get into it. The swag is one, but people want to help other people. Companies are trying to mentor other people. I think it's really good, and people shouldn't wait for the perfect repo, because you'll never find the perfect repo without waiting. I think people really need to just get involved in the conversation on issues and pull requests, just do comments, and then you'll kind of see which projects spark your interest from not only a technology point of view, but also from a kind of community point of view. And a really great way to check if people think is this project, is this community for me, is look at the closed issues and closed pull requests and see how people have had that conversation. Are people really helpful, or are they like closed, not interested, kind of goodbye without a comment? I think that's really important, because what people get excited about big name repos, and they're so busy that they might make a contribution, and there's people on that project so busy they might not want that. They just close it, and it really puts off that person contributing again. So I highly recommend people getting involved in smaller projects first, probably.
not only that, I've got
Absolutely.
like a couple of crazy ideas. Like one of these things is like when I go to any hackathons or any kind of these kind of open source kind of a huge event, like Hacktoberfest is all world, all over the world. And the good thing about it is a lot of things are being like coming together, like coming together. And the good part here is like you can create a huge value if you are using it in the right way. For example, you might have an awesome idea and then you want to do something on it. Okay, so remember Eddie was like posting a video about like what all different awesome ideas that you can do with your GitHub actions. Now if you have a great idea and you have all the steps to do it, you can attract developers all over the world to contribute to your repository. That way you can get into limelight or something like that. So it's super cool. And not only that, you can get the best minds. For example, I work for this consultancy and it's a huge financial consultancy. And we are hiring, most of the times we are hiring, right? So Hacktoberfest would be an awesome chance to like get the brightest minds to come to our team, and we can work with them to like, that's a good way of like showcasing your talents and skill set. And one of the I and more a lot of companies are sponsoring here. And one easy way to get into this top companies is by participating in hackathons and Hacktoberfest
Absolutely,
kind of
with
events.
hackathons and open source. And I really loved how Eddie specifically stated how you don't have to wait for the perfect repository, because there is no perfect repository. You have to start somewhere. And I think a big part of hackathons is really just getting that start. That sometimes you might not find the perfect platform, the perfect application, the perfect repository, so you just create one
I
because
think
that's what you need.
Yeah, I think there are two ways to look at that, as in as a maintainer and as a contributor. And I think everyone is a contributor, and I also believe everyone is a maintainer. And I'll explain why in a second. But I wanted to mention, so you reiterated my point, and I want to reiterate it with another example. I want to reiterate it with, let's like drive. If you're looking for the perfect car, and you're just sitting at home, you go, I want to wait at home until I find the perfect car. You're never going to find the perfect car. You got to go out and test drive car A, and you go, this one's okay. Test drive car B. This one's a bit better. C's not as good. D, and so on. So go and test drive open source projects by raising an issue, getting involved in the conversation, and then you'll see which ones kind of get you excited, which ones kind of help you accelerate your career, your technical skills, your communication skills, because it's not just about code. You'll improve your network. I get all my clients, all my jobs, everything through GitHub and through my open source contributions. And so I really want to encourage people to contribute to open source so they can improve not just on technical and communication skills and networking, but then they can get jobs. People then can start chasing you for work, and then you kind of get the pick, really. And companies are becoming more aware that it's really important to find people on GitHub, and they're not looking for like the best code. So don't worry about making everything perfect. I think it just needs to be good enough. And they're also looking for the communication. I can really tell when someone raises an issue or writes me an email if they're an open source contributor or not. I'm not talking about open source contributors to big projects like React. I just mean even small projects, because they write very differently. They don't make any assumptions and assume that I know what they were talking about if they sent me a message on Twitter like a month ago. I get like 100 messages on Twitter per day, so I'm going to forget that. And I think that's really important. When people get used to writing issues and getting used to the conversation, they kind of use quote blocks and say, well, when you mentioned this, this is my thought. When you mentioned this, and I can just digest it really quickly and easily. So that's another thing that leads to when I get DMs on Discord or emails or messages, some people say, oh, but you replied to their issue before my issue and I raised mine a day before theirs. Well, I had 15 minutes between meetings and theirs was really easy to read and understand. I knew I could get a reply really quickly, whereas someone else's, I didn't understand really what was going on. I'd have to dig through my emails, my messages, and figure out where the rest of the story is. And so I think that's really important. And it goes down to PRs as well. When you're raising PRs for people's projects, make sure you make it really easy for them to understand. Smaller the better. What else have we got? Smaller the better. Have a description. Explain what you were thinking and what you were doing, what the goal of the pull request is. Don't say I changed the README file, because they can see that from the files change tab. Like, add value to the description. I'm sure both of you have got lots of tips as well. What do you think?
What
I
exactly
think
you have?
that
Yeah.
we had a lovely point there about. I really like that point about the PRs, because so I actually was running an activity around this some time back, where we were helping some folks get their first PRs in. And one thing that I also love emphasizing about is explaining the changes that you've made, explaining your commits, explaining what you're trying to do with the repository when you're contributing. Because if we don't have an end goal that the contributor is trying to achieve, how can the maintainer understand every single aspect? Now, it's still relatively easier if you've got a smaller repository, but the moment you get onto bigger projects, which has a huge number of components which are interdependent, that documentation becomes exponentially more important. And it's a good practice. Once you start that with the smaller projects, it's a habit you're going to take ahead to the larger projects. And that's a habit you're going to take, in fact, anywhere, even if you're talking about outside, just maybe, even if you're not contributing, even if you're maybe talking to someone, discussing issues, discussing problems, you're going to take these habits along with you. And these are good habits to keep around.
Exactly. I want to pull out Mohammed's comment about add screenshots. The visual aspect is so important. It really is. Unless you're kind of having a block of code, then don't take a screenshot. That really bugs me. Actually have a code block. But if it's like a UI element or something visual, add a screenshot. Definitely. Great advice.
A lot of times in Stack Overflow, people are getting frowned because here's my code and there will be an image of the screenshot. I understand that whatever you see in your Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text looks pretty, but those kind of visual effects are being added in the code blocks as well. So that is one thing which completely annoys me as well. And there is this thing. So I completely agree with Eddie when he says, like, whatever changes that's been done, it is better to tell why you changed it rather than what you changed it, because what you changed it is like clearly
Anyone
shown
can
here.
see. Yeah.
Well, it's imagine like reading some code and seeing A equals B plus C. If someone puts a comment in B plus C, it's just like, I can see that from the code. Like, what is A? What is B? Why are they being added together? Is more valuable. Just like you were saying, it is more value to say kind of why rather than the how, because the how can be seen in the changes. We've got lots of things going on in the chat. Really busy.
So let's pick up some.
I think
yeah, very good questions are going
that's
on
really
in the chat.
exciting
So
right now.
we'll pick some of the questions that are really exciting and let's start answering them as well. That is the main reason for this.
Yes, Q&A. I'll talk forever otherwise.
Yeah.
So Praveen, as your channel and as the moderator, do you want to pick some questions out?
Yeah, just go on. Like,
okay, so there's a lot of people saying they're newbies. So Anshu, hopefully I've pronounced that right, says, I'm a newbie, I'm learning. Still, I guess it's confusing rather than configuring, contributing to big repositories. I think contributing to big repositories is probably trying to kind of run before you can walk. I would try and walk first, because at the beginning when you first contribute, you need to know the flow of forking a project, creating a branch, pushing it up, going to the upstream to the original repository, creating a pull request from your forked branch, and so on. And then after that, when you do that a few more times, the flow will become natural. But then suddenly you might get a conflict, because when you made the fork, and by the time you submit your changes, your pull request, someone else might have made more changes, and then you'll get a conflict and you'll have to resolve the coding conflict. And you want to kind of take a step at each time rather than trying to take a leap, because I think if people try and go too fast too quickly, they get confused and they get stuck and they don't like open source. My first open source contribution was like adding a comma to like a sentence or something, like really silly. And then after that, I fixed the typo. And then after that, I think I improved the English, like added a couple of more words to make it make more sense. And then it snowballed from there. It's just once you kind of get involved in open source and the conversation and think little, don't try and think big. I promise you, before you know it, you will be making lots of contributions. You will want to make so many contributions that you won't have time, because you start noticing other things. People will start contacting you and say, hey, do you want to get involved in this? Or, oh, I've seen you're working with library X, we've now got this. And then the jobs start coming in and connections, it just snowballs from there. So I think it's really important to look at the micro. So every day or every few days, try and get involved in the conversation. It doesn't have to be a pull request. It can be a reply to an issue or something like that. Because then in the macro, over a month, over 6 months, over a year, things will change like so drastically. I think it's really, think about the micro and the macro will take care of itself. There's actually an expression, which I do with code, we do with money, but I think it kind of ties in very well. If you look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. So don't try and worry about trying to save £100. Just try and save like a few pennies every day, and then before you know it, you'll have many pounds and so on. And I've actually proved this. As a kid, I collected coppers, like 1p and 2p from friends and family, and just all the time. And I actually had a huge jar, this thing I couldn't carry. It must have weighed like 30 or 40 kilos, and it turned out to be about £400 when I eventually cashed it in at the bank. So as a kid, I was like, whoa, I'm rich, jackpot.
That's a lovely example, and I think for any students around here, I do have a very similar example. So if you're staying in a hostel, you've got a budget for your food every week. Now, when you have a weekly budget, what you tend to do is that, at least this is what I do. If I have a weekly budget, I'll divide that up into an amount per day. So let's say I keep about maybe $200 a day, and that's rupees, not dollars. So if I keep about 200 rupees a day, and what I do is every day I maybe save $30 and I keep that aside. By the time a week is crossed, I have saved over the amount that I need per day. And if I keep doing that consistently, regularly, I've got a nice little amount for myself, which I can use to treat myself. So that's definitely a lovely saying, and I think I'll need to steal that away maybe for some other occasions as well.
I think you should. That's why I love having these conversations, because it sparks interest and it makes me remember
Absolutely.
stories, like you said. So thank you both and everyone asking questions, because that has sparked some ideas, which is really good. I did see a question a second ago that was really, really interesting. I've lost it now. I'm trying to find it in the chat. Oh. Yes. Can
Eddie,
I
are
jump
you
in with
really
this?
from? Sorry, Eddie, are you really from electronic department?
Yes, I did electronic engineering. I did
Yeah.
2 degrees in that. I did a BEng, and I did an MSc in advanced electronics and stealth systems and so forth from radars. So yes, and then I got
Wow.
into coding, and I haven't worked a day since, because I love what I do. It's just super fun, and I get to meet awesome people like all of you on this live stream and everyone else in the community on the live stream as well. So it's just, yeah, it's been epic. It's been the best 15 years ever. I'm looking forward to another 15 years.
But a lot of people are like, not exactly like you, but in India, we don't learn code as good as here or anywhere else, because
I
just
think
now.
yes, the education around coding is kind of different in the sense that there's a lot more focus on the theoretical aspects of computer science rather than the applications. That's definitely something that I am experiencing since I'm currently at university. And it's one thing I definitely noticed, that if I have to get into the applications, I have to work a lot more outside the classroom than inside.
I agree and disagree. So I probably disagree that the education system is different it's different in different countries. But I want to say it's not better. I don't think it's better here, and I'll tell you why. I love coding, right? I've been in the top 500 open source contributors in the world. I'm a GitHub star that got picked 14 people out of over 44 million on GitHub, etc. But at university, I hated to code. I kid you not. I used to pull sickies. I used to make up excuses why I couldn't do those modules. I hated to code because they taught it so badly. And I'm actually really glad I didn't do computer science, because I think if I'd just done coding the whole time, I would have detested it and I wanted to avoid it even more. So at university, I hated coding. And then after uni, I went to a hackathon and I came back and I was like, I love coding. And the whole family's like, wait a second, you used to make up excuses that you were in a different country because you couldn't do those modules and have your parents write letters and so on. I'm like, yes, but I built something rather than doing theoretical BS that isn't useful. So yes, I agree with you on that side. The theoretical bit is rubbish and isn't very useful. All the coding that I did at uni really wasn't useful. It was the coding that I did at hackathons that was useful. I learned so much from hackathons, and I think it's actually a really good question for you. There's a question in the chat I want to get to in a second, but as the hackathon expert, I want to ask you, do you go to two different types of hackathons? I do, and this is why I'm asking. Sometimes I go to a hackathon to win, so I'll use skills that I know and I'm confident and comfortable with. I'll still push myself in those skills because of the time constraints. And then sometimes I go to hackathons where I know nothing, and I'm purposely picking a technology where I can't even walk, let alone run, and then I'll submerge myself with a team of people who are experts in that, and I can then try and learn from them. How do you do it?
All right. So if I have to talk about the way I go about it, when I talk about my team building, I definitely make sure I'm done with that before the hackathon begins. Because I think from what I've seen, my first hack was a solo hack as a participant. And from then on, I started working with a few different team members. But as I got a little more experience, I think I keep a few teammates constant. I like that around because for me, that makes my communication easier. And for me, if I talk about my two types, yes, one of them is definitely if I'm trying to compete to win. Because I think it's great if you enter with that mindset, you end up pushing yourself a lot more. But when I talk about maybe to learn something new, I think that happens at every single hackathon. If you're trying to grow, if you're trying to push yourself, you'll end up hitting a roadblock which you have to overcome. So you'll always end up learning maybe something new. You're not really playing in your comfort zone. So when I talk about my second type, I do that if I have a project that I really want to grow, I want to build, and a hackathon like that gives me an extra push. Because it does happen sometimes that with the daily hustle and bustle, you end up maybe missing out on that work. And a hackathon a lot of times does give you an extra motivation. Because I have seen that in those 24 or 48 hours, I do end up at times getting a week or 2 weeks work worth done. And it's really insane to see that happen, but it does. So I do and absolutely some hackathons I'll do just because I want to learn something. That is always one side of it. But even then, if I'm going in with that sort of a mindset, if it's structured like that, I'm still trying to compete and I'm still going in for the win.
That makes sense. That sounds good. I think that's good advice to people. Hopefully everyone watching is going to get involved in open source and go to hackathons. And now hackathons are virtual, that you can do them anywhere around the world. Yeah, exactly right. You're not tied to the hackathon's a 6-hour flight away. It's we can all get involved wherever we are. Okay, time zones make it a little bit challenging, but who sleeps at a hackathon anyway? I do actually, because I'm old. But the young people, they don't sleep.
I do. So what we do is that in a 24-hour hack, we'll sleep maybe 3 to 4 hours. We do that. I always recommend that sleeping, as much as some hackers detest it, is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, by the time 16 hours are done, you're going to be out of fuel. You're going to be lying half dead, brain not working. So you actually end up messing around with some of the really crucial and underrated parts, like your pitching, your demoing. And they're sometimes, in fact, even a little more important than just what you're developing. because I think what hackers forget is that at the end of the day, it is a 24-hour hack, it's a 48-hour hack, and you can't get done everything in that time. So you're really working on developing a concept. And yes, if you can actually get a minimum viable product done, if you can get that much done, that's fantastic. But you're really working and demonstrating a concept rather than a finished project that's going into production the very next day.
Exactly right. It's not going into production the very next day. It's very different. I mean, you might be deploying it, but you're trying to do a lot of quick wins and low-hanging fruit.
Absolutely. Okay, I just remembered. So there's one point that I really wanted to come back to when we were talking about how some hackathons we go in for the win. And this actually reminds me of a very important point that I know for a fact that a lot of people do go in for the win and they get very dejected when they don't. And there's something very important that I do want to tell there, that even if I'm going in for the win and I don't win, in fact, I think all of us lose more. I think there's very rare few who end up winning more than they lose. All of us lose a lot more than we win. But even if we're not winning a prize, we're not going back empty-handed. We're going back with that experience. We're going back with that learning. We're going back with growth. We are growing every single hackathon.
And
this is the point I really wanted. Yeah, and networking. I think that's the most fun part about a hackathon.
It is.
I'm telling what's the main fun. Okay, so for those people who have got like literally zero technical knowledge, who are like extremely, like intimidated by, oh my god, code, I can't code. Even though there are like more than 50% of people in India who are doing their computer science, but they are saying like, oh, is it a coding subject? No, I don't want to go inside. Okay, so I guess Aditya can completely agree with me in this case. And with that being said, even for you people, you have a stomach and a mouth, right? Come here for food, please.
Physical hackathons,
Free food.
Generally free. Yeah, there's free food. It's a free dinner, and you're chilling with your friends outside.
Yeah, but actually, I want to go on. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to add to something that you both said, which was, you don't need to code to go to a hackathon. And I actually went through a phase last year of winning, I think, 6 hackathons in a row. And there's one common thing about all those hackathons. Half the team couldn't code.
There you go.
Because they add value from a different point of view. Before that winning streak of 5 or 6 hackathons, I went to a hackathon with some friends who are hardcore coders, hackers, and we made, technically, I still believe, the best project there, and we didn't win. We had CI going, we had CD, we had all this automation, it worked, it was epic, but we lost. And they said at the end, yours was technically the best technical, but it wasn't that engaging, wasn't that exciting, it just wasn't. I don't know. Imagine using a car example, getting in a car that's got no doors, no body, but it's super fast, and it's just like, oh, this is engineered so well, the engine can go X fast. It's not that. People do like to feel they've been on the journey with you. They do like you to tell a story when you're presenting, and they do want it to look good. So going back to those 5 or 6 hackathons that I won, half the team were not coders, and they got involved in the project just like everybody else in the team, but they added value from a different perspective, and they could say, but why have you done that? Like, why have you done that? They'd question it from a non-technical point of view rather than the techie person. Why did you put that semicolon at the end, or why didn't you put a semicolon at the end? It's more like, as a user, I don't kind of get why you need that. Why are you wasting time on it? It doesn't add value to me as a user. And so we actually one of the ones we won was a VR hackathon, and I'd never done VR before, and I was so sure we were going to lose. And we had a mix of team, like I said, someone who was a voiceover artist, like completely nothing to do with tech, and someone else was, I can't remember, but it was just brilliant. It was really good.
Absolutely. And so even in our team, what happens is that so in my constant team, we've got 3 members, which we try to make sure that the 3 of us end up competing together. And what happens is that in every hack, at least one of us doesn't end up coding
Nice.
because we've got differences in our tech stacks. We try to ensure that we are able to cover more topics. So with my team, there's one person who's worked a lot with Python and ML. And yes, when it comes to web development, he's got experience with Flask. Then we've got one who's a proper full stack web developer. I don't do web development. I focus more. I do work with cloud. I do work with Azure. I work with Xamarin. So I focus on developing mobile apps. And what happens is that in every hack, one of us will end up with almost no coding work. So, and that does at, at times end up being me. So, because of course, if you're working with a web app, then yeah, I am trying to work on my JavaScript skills. I've been working on that recently. But I know that if I'm not coding, then I'm focusing a lot on the documentation of my project. I'm focusing on the presentation, the pitching, the demoing, the view from the perspective of the user. And if I'm able to bring that in, I think that in itself is just as valuable as the code. Because at the end of the day, in most projects in a hackathon, the coding is actually the easy part. It's not the tough part. It's making it's designing and developing the roadmap for a product that someone would actually want to use, which is the really tough part. Because in 24 hours, when you're short with time, I think the first 2, 3 hours, not three, actually, three is a bit much for most, but at least for the first 2 hours, you're just focusing on what you want to build. I
Only
think
two,
that's what
three
you want to
hours.
do,
Well,
at
we
least.
spend like 10 hours
At
doing it and then we
least.
panic.
So,
But you're right.
so
You don't want to spend too much on this, but it does. You can get carried away and ideas. Yes,
yeah,
we need to build a bicycle, and then you end up going right. We should end up with a rocket ship, and you go, actually, look, we've only got like 48 hours, and we've used 8 hours talking.
yeah,
Hey,
that does happen, and that's why I try to say 2 hours is a nice little sweet spot because in 2 hours you've got enough ideas that you can actually build and you aren't going overboard. If you can actually set a nice plan within 2 hours, you'll end up focusing and developing, working on those for actually the next 10, 12 hours. You'll end up working on tweaking those. Then there's another side which a lot of people forget, and that is the look and the design of the product, which is essentially, again, not always a coding related role. If someone is focusing on UI and UX, that may not, that person doesn't have to be a very, very good coder, but maybe someone, who's got a nice creative mindset, who's working with tools like Adobe XD or Figma. That doesn't necessarily have to be a coder, but it's just as important because when you're working on your concept, when you're working on what you want to show, the front end is what's going to save you at the end of the day. And these are two roles which often, as coders, we forget, but are very, very important in any product.
one thing which I wanted to tell. So, how many of you know about Angel Hack? You both?
I don't think so. Remind me.
What? Because Angel Hack London is one of
Ooh,
the huge hubs. Yeah. So,
it
in
is
Angel Hack,
Angel like London's huge.
I guess myself and my friend, I and my friend went to Angel Hack London 2015, I believe, no, 2014, and it was 48 hours hackathon, and you won't believe, up to 40 hours we didn't do anything. We were sleeping, we were drinking
Ooh.
all the as much as possible. Food, pizza, pizza, pizza. That was one of my heavenly times because that's when I came here as a student, right? So 2014, I had literally zero money with me, and when I saw like so much food and drinks, pizzas and drinks, I was like, wow, this is the life. And yeah, so I was concentrating on that, and I got a lot of T-shirts. I just so there were these guys, PubNub, and all these pubs up kind of like companies. There was like the spokesperson of Android. I guess that was happening in Google's headquarters in London. So that was another crazy thing. I guess
Ooh.
it's Google campus. London. I'm not sure if it is headquarters, but it is a Google owned campus, and that was like crazy, crazy times. And telling about that, 40 hours we were just roaming around. We both were roaming around. We didn't know what to do because the other person was not a technical geek, but she wanted to be an awesome geek. Now she's like super awesome. She's an expert in cloud computing and other things. And yeah, 40 hours, we wasted it like anything. And we had nice food and thing. Suddenly something sparked. Why can't we combine Bitcoins with a game like a snake game on web?
Oh,
And you even think all these things. Yeah, we did it. It's a massively multiplayer online playing game using snakes. And you can win using
but
Bitcoins. That
it's
was my type. So if you just type in like on Google MMORPG
I am
Praveen,
so interested in this right now. I am so interested in this right now.
so yes, it is still there. It is exactly there. Like, and it says it's my name. Yes, yes. This is what MMORPG Praveen. If you search in Google, you kind of like get it. So I'm putting the link in the YouTube chat as well. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy, right? Like what? And suddenly we got this idea. Like after 40 hours of drinking, eating, and great. Okay, let's start implementing. We started writing what should be happening. So the funny part is, so we have a huge server in our computer, which is meant for like viewing the whole page, and we opened it up in the whole huge, big screen. We asked every one of us in the audience to like open it in your phones and then start connected to my computer through HTTP. And it was like the IP address, and then we use the WAMP server, USB web server, WAMP server, and it was a Windows machine, by the way. That shit, yeah, that's the worst machine ever I had. And all they wanted to do is when they open up their mobile phones, they had like up, down, left, and right, and there will be a small number in the middle which identifies who they are in the whole big screen, and their color. So color and number are randomized. So now number is incremented, color is randomized, and we just got this crazy idea like just in a spark, and we started like implementing. Okay, whatever the get request comes or post request comes, that will come with a direction, and the whole data is stored in the like the in the web server. And yeah, so you understand the concept, right? So based on the get request, we try to move the increment the values, and boom, people go crazy on it. And our project, in spite of doing at the last moment, we got the huge, like, it was like appreciated by everyone, but not we did not win. That's a different story, but it was like completely appreciated by everyone.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. It's just so exciting that you could do stuff like that.
and
And
yeah.
just being digital now. So anyone knows any good hackathons coming up, let us know. We look forward to probably taking part, and we could live stream it as well, right? Behind the scenes of the
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hackathon.
I just
I think
added a
we
link to
have the MLH season,
MLS
and
events link.
MLH
A lot
has
of
some
people
really great virtual hacks.
I'll have to have a
So,
look.
and I think I was checking the comments right now, and we've got I recognized one big hackathon enthusiast in the chats as well. I think Praveen would also know him, Siddharth Dayalwal.
Oh,
He's also there, and yeah, Siddharth is a big hackathon enthusiast, and he's coming up with a hackathon very soon in October, November.
yeah,
So
it's
Praveen and I are
Hacktoberfest, right?
both gonna be involved in that. Hack this fall. So
Hack this
we're
fall, yeah.
both gonna be involved in that. Yeah. So I
I'm a
think
speaker
Praveen, you've
there.
been announced as a speaker there. Yeah, and I'm a
Yeah, yeah.
mentor, so it's gonna be so fun.
I think that's quite soon. Yeah, in like 1 month or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
time.
coming towards the end of October. So I think
Okay.
last week of October,
Yeah,
sometime
so
around
about
there.
about a
It's
month.
gonna be a ton of
So
fun.
everyone watch this space. It's going to get exciting. Also, don't forget to give Praveen's video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with your friends. Maybe they want to get involved in open source hackathons,
Absolutely.
and yeah, have lots of fun and learn lots and network. There are some awesome questions in the chat. I have missed some, so apologies if I have missed some. I've tried to type to reply to some people as well, but if it's not clear, then do ask again in the chat. We don't mind. I wanted to mention one thing, and I've forgotten what it was, so I'll come back to that. We talked about open source. Oh yes, how to find an open source project to contribute to. We kind of touched on that. So if you both don't mind, I'm just going to just say a few things about it. First
Sure,
of all,
sure.
everyone is a project maintainer, and I think some people in the chat have said, oh, I'm working on my blog post or my site. Even if people have got a custom GitHub profile, then you've had to make an open source repo to do that. So straight away, you're a project maintainer. And I think it's important to try and encourage people to contribute to your projects, because then you get to learn the kind of the other side of the collaboration. So I think it's good that you do things to lower the barrier to entry, so you can get those stars, so you can get those forks, have a good readme, have a contributors file, have a license file, have a code of conduct file. You don't have to write any of these things, like license and code of conduct. GitHub has some buttons and you can pick from a few options, which is great. But also finding projects to contribute to. You've got 3 open source people on a live stream now. We all have projects. You can contribute to any of our projects. We welcome you to, and we'll gladly help. But also, so look at your friends' projects. And if you follow people on Twitter, they might tweet about projects they're working on. Also look at the labels. So if there is a particular project you want to contribute to, and we'll get how you can find projects, but if there is a particular project you want to contribute to, like a library you use or a framework you use, look at the issues. So you might raise a new issue, but Praveen, can I share my screen?
Go on.
It's
all yours, man.
Let me share my screen. Let's give a quick demo. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see this. So just so I can ignore the repo, it's one of my community repos, but these are labels. So when you've got a project that how, a project that you want to contribute to, go to the issues, and you can then look in the issues and you can filter by a label by clicking on it. So here I've just filtered by good first issue. Also, there are Hacktoberfest labels. But if you don't know what project you want to contribute to, right at the top you can go to the issue link, and straight away it talks about the ones that are created by me, assigned to me. But if you, in the search, I'm going to make it a bit bigger, if you remove all of that, and you can do things like label, and then you could say good first issue, and you can do that actually by clicking on some of these as well. So if I click on good first issue, it filters by the ones I've created, and to make it easy you can then just remove everything else and just say label good first issue, and now I've got loads of repos where they've got good first issue, and that's a really good place to start, because now you can see this Hacktoberfest label. So I can click on that, and now I've filtered by the label Hacktoberfest. So now you can look at these different things. You've got some Python ones, you've got different ones. Click around and have a look. But one thing to be cautious of, don't spend too long thinking about doing it, because by the time you spent time thinking about it, like say if I wanted to do this one, and I'm like, right, okay, explain what needs to be done, I get it, I'll do it tomorrow. But by that time, someone else has probably picked it up. So what I recommend is, if you're going to do something, invest time in understanding it, and then go straight into it. And don't go around loads of issues and say, assign this to me, I'll have it, I'll do it. By all means, do that on one at a time. But if you do 1 or 2 or more, and then you spend a few days a week doing it, the project maintainer is going to see that you're what you call sandbagging, and you're just trying to grab all of these things and hold them for yourself, and it's not very community spirit. So in the future, when you say, oh, I'll do this one, they're kind of going to ignore you. So you've got to think at it from both sides. That's why it's really important to be a maintainer yourself, because you get the appreciation from the other side. What do you both think?
Eddie, you are actually you are filtering the issues by one particular filter, right? Is it possible to filter multiple issues, like multiple labels?
Can you use multiple labels?
I think you can do. I haven't tried multiple labels. Let's try. Good first issue. Yes, Hacktoberfest and good first issue. Awesome work, GitHub. Your search is epic. Yes, it's possible.
Okay, since we're on the topic of GitHub, I have to ask you, Eddie. Recently, there have been some UI changes in GitHub, especially with the user profiles. What's your perspective on those? Because we've seen a very very mixed reaction on that.
For what? Sorry, for the new custom user profiles? These things?
So, not the user profiles. I think the user profiles are fantastic. But if you check the UI of each repository, how the single tagline has been shifted to the side, and you've got changes in the UI.
I see what you mean. Right, okay. So let's pick a project. I'm just going to pick one of
I
our
didn't
community projects. If anyone wants to join our community on GitHub, just raise us issue on the support repo and say invite me, and we'll send you an invite, and then it can appear on your profile as well. So, all right, let's pick one. Let me pick that support repo. It's a great way to get discovered and network as well, to be part of an organization. I think Praveen, I think you're both in there as well. If not, I have to add you. So this time,
I think I'll send a request,
create an issue for two reasons. One, I won't forget, and the other reason is you get a green square on your activity bar for raising an issue. So chase those green squares. This thing, so having this on the right and releases, it's growing on me. I'm getting used to it now. So if you had asked me a few weeks ago when it happened, I would have said, ugh. But now I'm like, yeah, I like it. It's good. I like how you've got the contributors down here as well. I think that is, really, really good. So I think that's great.
That's awesome.
Cool. Okay, let me switch back and stop sharing my screen. There we go. You can see our beautiful faces nice and big. I did my hair today as well. Let me catch up with the chat while you're both talking a bit more.
Yeah. And so, I'm actually enjoying the chat a lot. I think we've got a great chat going on. And I think I really have to give a little cheer to everyone in the chat, because that's just as important, to be honest. I mean, we're there because they're there.
Exactly.
So thanks a lot for staying active in the chat.
I love that. But I just want to add one little thing to that. You're so right in bringing that up, because it's that whole networking thing. So I don't know a lot of people in the chat, but I've seen their names, right? And now if they raise an issue or raise a pull request and I recognize the name, I'd be like, oh, they were in the chat. They asked a really good question. Let me see what they've just raised. And you kind of get excited. So you're kind of, almost like friends, even if you've never really actually spoken directly to them or anything. And then next time you kind of, I don't know, might see them in another live stream, or you might see them on Twitter. And then when you send them a LinkedIn invite, they're going to accept it because they feel that you know you. It's just building up that trust. And I think that's really, really important. So I love it that you said that. So yes, thank you everyone for being here. And for everyone who's writing and raising questions in the chat and helping other people in the chat. It's important, you don't want to spam the chat, but to get on other people's radar, you could answer some other questions in the chat, and then your name just appears a bit more. You're adding value. So it's always about adding value, I think. But yeah, I love that. I've just learned something new today, to thank people in the chat and tell them why it's beneficial to get involved in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a very, very, I think the best part about everyone asking questions really is that they're vocal about the questions. And that in itself, I know for a fact that it can be tough at times, because every time before a session, I know I tell people, come on, ask questions, let's have a nice chat. And people feel afraid of asking questions because they think questions might be stupid, or what if someone is judging. And this is something I told someone today as well, no question is silly. So,
and one more thing is, like, if you are not asking the questions, you are not getting the answers. As simple as that. So if you have a question, please go ahead and ask. No one's going to judge you. Even if they judge you, what's going to happen first? Simple.
Doesn't matter. And in fact, if you're asking questions, someone else is also getting the answers. So that's also a really cool part.
Not only that, there are like loads of people who are like, that could be a real issue, like something in back there that we are not supposed to ask. At least one person asks, the whole community gets benefited. So in thinking of that way, I kind of like go stand in front, do a lot of things. And now Lakshay also says one superb idea. And the good part about doing all these live streams is like, I get a lot of ideas. I kind of like take these ideas and implement it in my workplace, and it is also going really good. Like, I'm actually thankful for doing these things, because I get a lot of new concepts that can be done. And with that being said, like with Eddie, I have been doing a lot of live streams like this, which is hands-on coding. And people used to give me like suggestions. Okay, why don't you do this way, or why don't you use this particular framework? And I learned a lot in that. That's cool, yes. Right?
It's true, and it's again, asking a question is almost like contributing back to the community, like you said, because it helps other people. But if you're asking things that you've already asked, again, like the same question over and over, then that's different. I think people need to, if you ask, well, how do I do this? But then the next day you ask again and you ask again, then either they're not answering it very well and you might need to ask somebody else. But I think it's important also not to ask a question but then not digest the information that's been provided.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, I mean, if you're asking a question and suppose Praveen, Eddie, any one of us gives some advice on it, take that back, maybe try it. If it doesn't work for you, you can definitely come up, ask it again. But at the same time, come in with those experiences and observations. So that way that helps us grow as well at the same time. Suppose you're not coming to us, suppose you're taking that to someone else as well. You're also learning from people, even if it's the same issue, but you're working at it, you're always growing, whether it gets resolved or not. And that growth is actually something that doesn't get noticed as much, but it's always there. And it's necessary to maybe stop and appreciate it every once in a while as well.
Well said. And I think another great way for people who are asking questions to learn is if you ask a question, which is great, and someone else asks a similar sort of question, try and help them for two reasons. One, you'll learn so much more by trying to help someone. I don't think you have to know the entire answer. Like if someone said now, how do I create a pull request? And we demoed the pull request and they kind of got 50% of it, for example. When someone else asks, that you can help nudge them along, maybe not the whole way along, but just enough to get moving. And then
start. Yeah.
And then you start standing out. You start learning more. You start standing out more. And as a project maintainer and as a community organizer, when I see other people in my community help other people, that's just, massive thumbs up. So when they need something from me, they're like top of the list because I'm like, right, I'm going to help them because I know they help other people. And it allows me to scale more. So I think it helps the community and the person asking the question, the person who's trying to answer the question, and the community as well. So yeah, definitely try and answer questions as much as you can. And you can be honest and say, look, I don't know the whole thing, but I think there was something around this and something around that. And sometimes it's enough to nudge people in the right direction.
There is also one more thing
that
I wanted to add. What it is like when you do something, some kind of an activity, it gives you more confidence as well. So next time you will do it better or something like that. So that's what I've been doing as well. So first few days I would have been doing like a bad job. Then I keep on improving on it. So if I see this is going to be my career, for example, I need to take a nice webinar live, like a workshop on how best you can answer Stack Overflow questions or how best you can ask Stack Overflow questions. Because many a times what they do is sometimes people ask this way, like the way Eddie hates. Eddie, quick question, very urgent.
Yes.
And there will be like this, like a small thing, like, I've got this problem, please help me. It will be like more of polumbles than the explanation really. It will be like full of, what do you call this? Like ranting or whining, then you are not getting problem at all. So I did this, I did that. Okay, fine. What is the problem? This is the problem. This is what I'm trying to achieve. And this is what I have done so far. That's it. I'm pretty sure that no one will be downvoting your questions. So that is a good way of asking a question, and answering wise, make sure you are to the point and don't give just the code. Like one more thing about asking questions for people who are completely new and also answering questions as well. Like you don't use the necessary code wrappers or something like that. You just copy the code and paste it here. It doesn't like directly render the code as good as like it is seen in the coding thing, but it just renders in a single line, like all the whole code. It is in HTML, right? So you need to make sure you are putting it in the code wrappers and code blocks. So learn Markdown. Markdown is really good because
yes,
number one,
it helps saves your life. Yeah.
I use Typora.
I didn't know how to work with Markdown until a few months back. I couldn't write in Markdown, and now I think anywhere I go, anywhere I'm writing, I'm just hoping and praying there's Markdown formatting. I love it. It's amazing.
I guess initial times, I guess there are these three things that actually introduced Markdown to me. Number one, Stack Overflow. Number two, GitHub. Number three, Ghost. My blog is completely Markdown based, and
Oh,
yeah, I still need.
awesome.
Yeah, I need to still
For me, it
update my
was
blog because
Ghost.
the last time I blogged was
Yeah.
like 2 months ago. So after that, I had to leave the job, and then I need to search for a new job, and things got really tight. And in my new job, I need to make sure I prove myself. So I was like in that process, completely leaving the blog part, or even I started writing a book on TypeScript, but unfortunately, due to the
Ooh.
um, yeah, due to the work thing, I thought, okay, let me first concentrate on the work, and then maybe when I get time, I'll start continue resuming the book. So yeah, and then health
Yeah.
problems, pandemic issues, boom. Nothing should stop you from doing things. So keep going. That is something which I wanted to tell. So yeah, learn Markdown, be bold, and yeah. So I'll be definitely doing one more live stream on answering or asking in Stack Overflow that is going to help a lot of people. So make sure you don't give out the real information. Like for example, most of you might be in the schools, most of you might be in the working professionals, and if you are a working professional and if you need to do something, if you need to ask something, make sure you don't give out a lot of information that could be client confidential or
Yeah.
something like that. If you are
Proprietary.
in
Yeah.
that's one thing, that's a really a serious problem. And when you're in school, just don't copy and paste your assignments, please, for god's sake. Just tell them this is god's. You might be I mean, like I'm in the UK, so once I had this genuine question, and my professor actually asked me to like go ahead, ask for help. That's completely fine. The moment I asked for help, professor, he's the head of the department, he called me on my phone and told me like, Praveen, you have given out a lot of information, you might be even penalized for plagiarism. So first remove it, talk to the Stack Overflow moderators, get that question removed completely, and try to re-engineer the question, or else I'll also I'm happy to like guide you on. I mean, that's the way teachers,
Wow.
like, they are so,
Yeah.
at the same time they are so perfect. Like, I really like the
I think the
professor
plagiarism
way.
point is especially very important. You've got to be very careful about that.
I
Yeah, that
have.
makes a lot of sense.
Sorry.
No, 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 I was done. I was done.
I was
Yeah.
going to say I have what Praveen or both of you were saying before about Markdown. I actually have a Markdown example. So let me just bring up my screen again and show this Markdown example. And it's not just how to use Markdown. That's not my goal. My goal is to show if you want your questions, issues, pull requests reviewed quickly, answered, then this is a simple example I just knocked together just now. Let me bring it up. So this is my screen. You can all see my screen. So imagine writing this markdown. This code doesn't work. A couple of lines of code. Like Praveen said, no code blocks. I want to change line 2 to, whatever. Right, you preview that. If I got that, I'm not really going to look at it. I'll look at it when I have extra time, which is hardly ever. But if you want to make something stand out, you want to get help, or you want your pull request merged, people don't understand why their pull requests aren't merged because they haven't read the README where they've got suggestions on how to raise a pull request, as in coding standards, etc. Or CI is failing. But look at that. Everyone remember that. Actually, you know what? Let me open them side by side. Let's live dangerously. And let's do this. And you're going to show you a comparison. I've just created this now, so it's not perfect, but hopefully has a bit of demonstration about the difference. So if I just open a new blank issue, I'm going to paste this in. So here we go. So it's the same information. I've just changed it slightly. So you've got the one on the left and the one on the right. Which one is more easier to understand? So this code doesn't work. It's highlighted. It's really easy to see straight away what's there. Rather than saying I want to
Right.
change to line 2 and have this, what does that make sense? You've got this. You want to change that line to this line. You can start a conversation. Don't do this in a pull request because they'll be able to see that in the pull request changes. But if you're raising an issue, this is just an example. Sorry, what was that?
You know what? In GitHub, it is now currently allowing you to like make changes or something like that. For example, there is a way to suggest changes, and the repository maintainer, they
Yes.
just need to go and click on like accept the changes, and it automatically creates a pull request for themselves, like, or maybe creates a commit for themselves, which is so cool about the
It is
way
very,
GitHub
very
handles.
awesome. And yeah, if someone writes like in an inline comment, you're missing a semicolon or something, yeah, just do it. It looks like this. It looks like a diff, and then the person who raised a PR can just go accept, 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 and you become like one of the contributors on that pull request. So that is, yeah, really, really awesome. Write in the chat, everyone, if you prefer the one on the left or the one on the right. What would you rather read? I'm hoping everyone says on the right. I'm sure Mohammed's going to be funny and say the one on the
Yeah.
left. There's always Mohammed. There's always one. Right. Thank you, Praveen. Awesome. The right hand side. Okay, which is that side. We've only got a few
True.
minutes left, Praveen, and either of you, anything you'd like to add?
Oh, I didn't see the time. I thought it would be ending by half an hour, but it's already gone like 1 hour. Folks,
Yeah.
is every question answered? So, Eddie, I guess I wanted to like conclude by saying few things. Number one is there is going to be a pilot thing which I'm planning to start. So please, please, please support me.
What is
And
it? You have to explain
It's a
it. What's the
surprise.
pilot
It's a
thing? You're going to
suspense.
fly a plane?
No, not pilot in the sense that I'm going to pilot something. Like for example, I'm going to try out something like I learned something new
Yeah.
every day. So I wanted to share that with everyone. Not I'm not sure whether I'm going to do it as a live stream or a recorded one, but anything works, right? So I'm just planning for now to do something like a recorded one, and it's going to be every single day for 1 week to see how the response is. And if the response is great, I'm gonna go for like do it like religiously every week, and it's going to be released on like during the lunch times. So I'll be obviously not to get the threat of my company. I'll be doing the recording during the out of office hours or during the weekends, but I'll be uploading it every single day on the lunchtime. How many of you will be happy about it, like looking at this? So
That'd
I
be
learned
cool.
something new today in my office, or I learned something today during something. So those kind of things will be uploaded, and that's
Awesome.
one
Do
thing.
it.
That's one idea.
Sounds really
Thanks.
cool.
So one more thing. A lot of people have asked me this one. So why should we go to, like, do you want to, both of you, do you want to summarize why do you want to contribute to Hacktoberfest? Number two is how to get goodies. What are all those goodies? That's it. Then we will wrap it up.
I'll let you go first.
All right. So why I would like to contribute to Hacktoberfest? I think, as a student, I'm busy with academics. I'm busy with internship applications. There's a lot of stuff, and I think at the end of the day, maybe just helping out in this one way is just as good as any as well. And this is an extra opportunity for me to maybe help out, play a part in a larger motion. And that in itself, this is actually something, this is a discussion I had with a friend of mine, and it's actually a very cool idea if you think about cog in a large machine. So that's definitely something that excites me in its own way, and that's one reason why I'm really more interested. It used to be for the swags until last year, but now I think I really want to focus a lot more on the contributing aspect, maybe actually doing some meaningful work. If that makes sense.
It makes complete
Eddie, what
sense.
about
It's
you?
awesome. So, for me, I think it's really important if they're students or they're further in their career or changing careers into tech, open source will, as we've said, will help people better their technical skills, better their communication skills, and grow their network, which then leads into getting better jobs, which then leads into getting more money. So I think if people are changing jobs and they get only one job offer, they don't have much choice. They say, do I stick with the one I've got or do I accept the new one? But if people are suddenly getting 5, 6 job offers, then You can pick your favorite project, the one with more money, wherever you are in your life. And that's really important.
Yeah.
And I want people to have that, because when I go to my clients, wherever they are in the world, US, UK, etc., they say, well, we want to hire some new people for this project. And I say, well, go look at your open source projects. Who are the top contributors? They know your project. You know you can work with them, because it's more about attitude. When I hire for my clients, I also don't just look at the top contributors and look at their code. I actually want to look at their conversation. Do they have the right attitude? Do they want to help other people? Do they want to collaborate with other people? Or are they just great coders, but they don't want to work with anyone? And it's open source is more actually about the people, communication and collaboration rather than code. Code is more secondary now. Yes, it started off with code, but it's really become an amazing community. And people should treat it as like brushing your teeth. Don't try and brush your teeth for an entire week and then not brush it for the rest of the year, because you spend all day, brushing your teeth, going through a toothbrush a day sort of thing, and then wonder why people's teeth fall out a year later. Every day people brush their teeth, and it's just little and often. And if you miss one day, your teeth aren't going to fall out. They're not going to go yellow. But over the years, it adds so much benefit. And it's the same with open source and your network and everything else. So think small and don't worry about the macro. Just do a little bit as often as you can. Just one little thing. Like Praveen was saying, every day if you can, help someone, and then a different day learn something new, and a different day contribute to open source, and just rinse and repeat, and things will come to you by doing that. Definitely try and find a little bit every day, just 15, 20 minutes.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I think that's a lovely example, comparing open source with brushing your teeth. That's another one I'm stealing.
That's fine, you can steal it. I think I stole it from someone else, and I'm stealing lots of yours as well. So not stealing, it's open source, right? We're sharing and borrowing and standing on the shoulders of giants.
There is no copyright here. It's only copyleft. So
absolutely, anyone can share these. Yeah, I think that's the perfect example. We've just open sourced a lot of our own little dialogues, and that's. And anyone in the comments, if you want to steal them away, please steal them away.
Absolutely.
We'd love that.
Yes.
So I would like to put a request to all the people who are watching here. Would you like to take a big screenshot and share it on share it on LinkedIn
and tag us
or Twitter,
and we'll reshare it.
Yes,
and we'll give you a shout out.
Share my Twitter as well.
That's a great
Absolutely.
way, Praveen. That's really good, because they share it, they give us a shout out. Maybe share one thing you've learned today from the stream, or one thing that sticks in your mind, and then we'll retweet it. So then our network will then see your network, and again, it's just it's open source, social coding, social media stuff. So I love the idea, Praveen. Great idea. I will share my website.
Absolutely.
And then people can pick what they want, what platform they want.
Yeah.
Love that idea, Praveen.
Absolutely. I've put my Twitter in there in case anyone wants to check out. I'll also share my LinkedIn there. I think those are the two I really stay more active on. So either of them would be great. And if you want to connect on both, connect on both. It's always.
But wait a second, my hair's not ready.
Yeah.
Wait, okay. Take the screenshot now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Also, for those who are looking to get started or looking to get more active, I'm actually running a Hacktoberfest event on the 10th. So we've got our own little portal set up with MLH, and I think I can share the link there in the comments.
Share the link. Do it. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That is awesome. Yeah, I look forward to watching that.
So that's our MLH link, and all those who log in register from there. We'll contact you via email very soon. We're setting up our Discord. We've got a Discord for our club. We're setting it up for Hacktoberfest. So as soon as that's done, anyone who's registered up there, we're gonna send you an email. So we'd love to have you join us that day. And we're gonna have various activities. We're gonna have an activity around building just your absolute first website, getting started with HTML, CSS, and a bit of JavaScript. We're gonna have one on getting started with GitHub. We're going to do a showcase in case anyone wants to showcase any of their former projects. We're going to do a showcase, since we're going to have a small little time for people to build a website and then actually get their first pull requests in on our own repository as well.
That's
So we've got
awesome.
quite a few activities lined up, and there's going to be some time just for community engagement, networking, chatting. It's going to be a ton of fun. I look
That
forward to seeing at least some of you there. It's going to be a lot of fun,
that sounds
definitely. That's
great.
the only guarantee. Fun's the only guarantee I'm going to make, and I think it's the only one that matters. So yeah.
Exactly. I've I'm on Hacktoberfest live stream on the first of the month and the last of the month. So
Yeah.
this Friday I will be on their Twitch channel, and I will be on the last
Wow.
day of the month as well. And probably in between, I'll fill in some gaps
Damn.
as well. So do come and say hi. And I will
That's
be
super
live
cool.
streaming throughout the month on my YouTube channel. I'm sure I'll do some with both of you as well. We'll do lots of live streaming
That's
this
going to be
month.
fun.
It is Hacktoberfest, right?
That would be
And
cool.
just get involved, people. Do it. Any questions, let us know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even if you have any questions which you wanna, I mean, if something comes up later, we've all shared our socials. You can contact us at any time. We'll always answer. That's the
Ask
one
us
thing that's gonna be there. So
publicly.
we're always gonna answer. So just, yeah, we prefer public, but even if if you wanna start by asking, just maybe
Sure.
privately a nice little DM. My Twitter DMs are open. For LinkedIn, I'd prefer if you could connect once. That's
Yeah.
generally how I think it'd be better. You can't send an
I
email
always
otherwise if you don't have LinkedIn Premium.
I
Awesome.
always get
And if
connected with
anyone's, yeah,
on LinkedIn. Please go ahead, shoot
yeah.
your
I
request,
think
and
one thing I
happy to.
recommend for LinkedIn for everyone, if you're connecting with us for the first time, or even if it's someone else, if you're connecting after any such session, just mention that you watched this session or something, because I think for
That would
Praveen
be
and Eddie,
real.
definitely, I think with me, I've cleared out my pending requests very recently. But for us, there's a lot of pending requests that are going to be there. So it'd be better if if you send a request with that kind of a message, we notice it a lot quicker.
Yes. Definitely agree.
Awesome. So
Awesome. Okay.
yeah, thanks a lot. I guess we have taken a long time. I don't want to get grilled by my manager, so I'm just gonna get back to my work. And how about you both?
Same as well. I will say my buys.
Thanks, Eddie, and thanks, Aditya. Aditya, I guess it's uh, late evening in India, so I hope, yeah, you want us 7, right? 6:30. Looks like Aditya is like completely muted.
Headphones broken.
Yeah,
No worries. We've
yeah,
overrun. We've got, like you said, we've got to get back to work. Just give us a
yeah.
wave.
So it was really nice, people. So thanks a lot for coming in. Please hit the bell icon so that the next live streams will be really nice and you'll be getting notified if I post something new. And don't forget to subscribe. Also subscribe to Eddie's channel. Eddie's got like a lot of like open source stuff being shown, and like that's cool. That's super cool. And I guess, yes, I need to run, and that gives us to the end of the session. And have a nice day, everyone.
Have
Have
a
a
great day. Catch up
have
soon.
a
Thanks.